This is Needy and Normal. I'm your host, Ashley Levering, mom, wife, and life coach. After years of coaching and learning from my own life, one thing is clear: meeting your needs is essential for living your best life. Here, we'll talk about your needs and not only learn to accept them, but also tend to them without guilt. You're not needy. It's normal. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Needy and Normal podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Listen, this is going to be a fun episode because it's a guest episode. It's a return guest episode. My good friend Paige, as promised, has returned to give us an update on her life. When I interviewed her way back as my very first guest in March of 2024, she was a professional baseball wife and was telling us how that life felt and what it had been like for the last 20 years. Now, life as she knew it just doesn't look and feel quite the same. Listen to this conversation as she walks us through the massive changes she chose for her life. Your episode aired on March 20th, 2024. So now we're recording on August 19th.
So there is nothing significant about this at all.
Why is there? What do you mean there's nothing significant?
Because you said your episode aired on May 20th or March 20th, and then you were like, and we're recording on August, and I'm thinking you're going to say 20th. You said 19th.
19th. Oh, that would have been cool. I'm just establishing the time, Paige. Fuck off.
There is nothing significant about the time that has passed.
There's so much significance about the time that has passed. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and start. We've already begun.
Okay. My email just popped up for no reason. Hold on.
What happened?
This is going to be like, have you seen, oh my goodness, Amy Poehler, and they're trying to start their podcast and
they just can't.
They can't get it started because she's a disaster. She's like, hold on, guys. And she's trying to get her headphones, and her headphones are all tangled up, and she's trying to, and then she finally gets her computer going, and then something falls down, and they're she's like, okay, I finally got it. She's like, oh my God, you guys, you're not going to believe it. My computer's going to die. And so she's trying to hurry up and plug her computer, and they're just laughing at her because she's just a mess. And then she finally gets it all situated, and her doorbell rings, and they're like, oh my God, what is that? And she's like, it's my food delivery. She's just a complete.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what
Well, I love it. That's fine. We can get this shit together. The time is significant. That's not, how did I say different? The timing is significant. You were my first guest back in, I almost said October. Oh my God. I feel like Amy Poehler right now. What time is it? What's today? Get it together. Okay.
Together.
You were my first guest on March 20th last year. It's been a very it's been a long time of life, and we're friends, and we keep up with each other, and I've been following along with your life, and I remember asking you, hey, when everything changes, will you come back on the podcast? And you said yes, and I've held you to it, and here we are. So thanks for that.
You made it. Almost didn't happen.
You made it. Almost didn't happen, as in not coming on the show, or not doing what you've done.
All the above.
X, Y, Z, A, B, C, M, D.
All the above.
But it's been over a year. You have made huge changes, and I mean, I'm assuming you're going to be an open book here because I'm going to bug you about all the things. I'm proud of you. I've been amazed because we've talked about things you wanted to do and wanted to change. Even that episode, things were on the cusp and you weren't ready to talk about it yet, but things were about to change. And not only did you change things, but dramatically so. And your life looks so different now than when we were talking over a year ago about being a baseball wife, which you are no longer.
I'm not. I feel like you get to a place in your life, and maybe it does happen when you're late 30s, early 40s, and maybe for women that's more of a thing, Just because I think you go through weird things as a woman. Your body changes when you're in your 40s. But um, I think you get to a point in your life where you kind of do like a little step back and evaluate. And I was at that place, um, we'll say, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago. And I think I just took a step back and said, not sure this was the path that I thought I was going to take. I'm not sure this was the trajectory that we were going to be on. Um, and we had moved from, Donnie and I had moved from Arizona to Michigan at that time, built a house, and didn't really think anything of it, really, just sort of like, yeah, we're ready for a different change of scenery. Um, but then it was like, a year or two in, taking another step back and saying, yeah, no, you're still in this weird zone of not feeling like this is where you're supposed to be. And so I think that sort of set off a chain of events at that point of figuring out that there was an issue or just sort of a lack of connection to where I felt like I would needed to be aligned. And then figuring out that, yes, in fact, there is a problem. What is the problem? Can the problem be fixed? No, it cannot in my case. And what do you need to do thereafter to get yourself to where you want to be? And obviously there's a lot more that goes into that, and we can break that apart. But um that's kind of the gist of like, a span of several years, not really understanding what the feeling was that I was feeling as far as being connected or aligned or on the right path or however you want to phrase it. And then coming to that conclusion of you have got to do something about this because you're not getting any younger. Your kids aren't getting any younger. Your life is not, going to be different if you don't make it different. Coming to a place of like, from a place of discovery to how do you want this to look and what are you going to do about it? I feel like I've always been somebody who I never wanted to be a victim of my life. And I watched people in my life be a victim of their lives and, complain and cry and rant and rave about all these things that they hated and not be willing to do anything about it. And there was a point of time where I'll admit that I was doing that for sure. Cause I think everyone sort of goes through that span of time where you've got to be like, I hate this, and then you got to come to the conclusion of, do you want to change it or are you good with it? Can you be fine with it? I came to the conclusion after years that I was not okay with this and I needed to do something about it and stop letting it dictate me, I guess, in a way. To be more specific, um, coming to the conclusion that my then husband and I just were not on the same track and things just weren't really going well. And not for any particular reason, not because he was a bad guy or I'm a bad person or anything like that. Just in general, just didn't feel super connected. We got married very young. And he obviously had this crazy career, lots of ups and downs and traveling and moving and, him being called up from the minor leagues to the big leagues and being sent down and being traded and all of the things that baseball life comes with. And just kind of got to a place where we were like, is this what marriage is supposed to be? Is this what it's like? Is this just what like the line that we're fed that like you're supposed to get married and have kids and like and then you just kind of become complacent and become stuck in this like pattern where you're just not really feeling fulfilled. Maybe you're not getting what you need personally out of the relationship or out of your own life or, any other of the areas of your life that you're trying to sort of piece together when you're an adult. Um, and we worked long and hard to try to figure out what the problems were, identify them, and then decide if we could go fix it. And we did try. We went to counseling. We had tons of discussions, and I mean, this went over the course of probably 3 years um, of trying to get to a place of determining whether or not we could find some common ground again and like, you know, make this work. Um, in the end, it just, I think, due to various things, but a lot of it had to do with, um, I think, just maturity levels not being the same, emotional maturity, not being on the same tier, um, and not being able to handle what comes with marriage counseling because it's not easy. It's taking a good, long, hard look at yourself and letting someone tell you all the things that you're failing at or all the things that maybe they need to try harder at, or all the things that maybe hurt the other person, but whatever. And that ended up being too difficult um, for the other party involved. And so counseling just wasn't going to work. Um, and so we stopped that and then made the determination that this just was not fixable. And, we both came to the conclusion that it's like, okay, we're not bad people. We didn't do anything wrong to each other. Our story is done. This chapter of our lives is over and our story is done. It's complete. We wouldn't change it for anything. Obviously, we have two beautiful kids out of it and we live this amazing life and have this amazing story, but it's it's concluded. It's at its end. Um, and so after we got to that place of admitting that, I think, to ourselves and to each other, then it sort of set off this journey, I think, for me to figure out what's next for me, being that he's still traveling, still doing the baseball thing. And I was at home a lot with our kids by myself. And so he was very, very career focused. And so it became this thing of me trying to figure out, like, okay, you've got to go decide what you're going to do with your life. And so, I was already working. I tried to go back to school a couple different times, which proved to be part of some of our problem, that was not an okay thing um, for me to do in the way that I wanted to do it. And so I just kind of said, all right, I'm going to put my head down, keep working the job that I was working, and um, see where life takes me.
I remember as our friendship developed, listening to you go through these different stages and think through these different decisions and feeling all the feelings about trying to give it as much of a go as you could, but there were too many things not there anymore. Or to your surprise, I remember you kind of learning more about yourself and what you needed and what you wanted out of life, maybe things that weren't ever there. The connection that you thought you had just wasn't what you needed at the end of the day. So I remember you processing these things out loud. And I remember one particular conversation. I don't remember exactly when it was, but I remember being in my kids' playroom and we started to get a lot closer after I think this conversation. And I asked you, I said, are you at the point where you're really thinking about divorce? And at that point, it was still very like, whoa, I don't even know, like that's scary. But then I remember hearing you say, actually, yeah, I think that might be where this is going, but it's not, that's not real to me. Like I can't see that, touch that, think that's real yet. So I
Mhm.
remember that point. And then from there, all the steps you took that you just explained about trying to figure it out and trying to make things work and trying to go back to school and figure out who you were. So in this process, I remember learning about you and becoming your friend and at the same time learning about what mattered to you and listening to you kind of feel almost tormented by like trying to make all these decisions while keeping the kids going and not have them feel any of this at the same time. That's a whole thing. That's a topic that could take over a whole episode, is like how do you handle keeping things as normal as possible for your kids while you go through something like this.
Yeah, I
And
spent a lot of
obviously,
time concealing.
yeah, okay, so maybe you can speak a little bit to that, and then obviously when you pushed the go on the divorce and what
Yeah.
came from that.
Yeah, I definitely spent a lot of time concealing from everybody because I felt like it wasn't because I was trying to hide anything from anyone. I mean, obviously for my kids, there's a scenario in which you're trying to protect them until they need to know sort of deal. But mainly like I needed to get myself in order because my whole thought process was you will be nothing to anybody. You cannot help your kids through this process if you are not set. Like you've got to get your own shit together and have your own stuff, like all your ducks in a row before you can let anyone know what's going on. And I've always sort of been that way. I've always been kind of a like, need to prepare first. Got to be prepared. You got to have it all figured out. That's, to my own detriment sometimes. But I needed to have a plan. I needed to feel like I had it solid in my head so that when the time came to tell my family or tell my kids that It was like, yep, here's what's happening and everything's going to be okay. And here's what we're going to do. And so that's what I did. I mean, I didn't tell anybody about it. And then we did finally sit our kids down and let them know what was happening. And obviously that was super emotional and difficult. Um, but ultimately it's what sort of catapulted us to say, yeah, this is actually happening and it's time to get this going. And so then that comes with then telling your family, and people are shocked, and I didn't get a lot of great support from my close family, so that was a bummer. That's a hard one to sort of swallow, after you've sort of gone through it, and then just to still not get that
Yeah.
support is tough when you're
Yeah.
already feeling really self-conscious about it. But um, yeah, so I mean, we finally kind of like let the cat out of the bag, I guess, is the phrase. And that was really difficult, obviously, to have people sort of feeling like they're judging you. But I had to just stand strong in the fact that like I knew what was right for me, and it's not like I had made the decision 2 weeks prior. This had been
Yeah.
years and years and years in the making of us,
Yeah.
trying to figure this out. And so that is sort of like that was like the starting point of, okay, like we're doing this is what's happening. It's official. And then fast forward, deciding to sell the house, and kind of moving everyone to a different place, because, in conjunction with not feeling like I was on the right path as far as my marriage goes, I also was not feeling like I was living in the right place. Um, and so, there was chains of events that happened that allowed me to move to where I live now. But ultimately, like, it was always going to happen. And we had been talking about it even, before that. I'm sure I mentioned it to you, a few times. Um, so got to a place where I felt comfortable enough to say, okay, I'm going to put my house on the market, sell my house, and get everybody moved to a new place, which was determined by a new relationship that started.
Yes.
um, so yeah, that kind of pushed me along, I guess, into making a decision to move to where I am now, which is about an hour and a half away from where I was from. Yeah, I recently just
Bought
bought
a
a house.
house, a new house,
Hmm.
and you had talked about that transition period of moving the kids and Donnie getting his place, and you rented a spot for a while, and I remember you saying like this isn't it, this isn't forever.
Right.
Um I'm going to need new roots. I'm going to need to settle down somewhere and have that stability. Everything you set out to do and all the things you were hoping for. And I know there's always growth and there's more. Life is not over, but to put yourself where you are now, including a new relationship that makes you happy. I know it does. You were very like, this is what I'm gonna do, and then I'm gonna go do it. Every time you did some kind of move in that direction, I probably said to you, like, oh my God, Paige, like you're doing the thing you said you wanted to do, and now you're doing it. So I'm pretty confident in the fact that if you say whatever you say next, I'm gonna do this or I want this, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I feel like I've just always sort of lived by that. And again, it goes back to that idea that like I don't want to be a victim of my life, and I don't want to be within that same group of people who is sitting here going, well, I don't like this about myself or about my life or about my job or about whatever. But not like, if you don't do anything about it, then what is happening? Why are you complaining? You can't sit there and complain about it and not try. I realize that like not everything can come to you, and you can't always get everything, but you can try. You can take steps in the right direction to work towards it. Nothing's just going to be handed to you ever. Is anything ever handed to you in life?
Yeah.
So even though I had some moments where I was like, nope, it's not going to happen. This is never going to work. I did. I said, okay, this isn't working as far as my marriage goes. We're going to be done with this. We got to figure out how to make this move forward in some way. And did that. And then it was like, okay, get the house sold, get moved, find a new job. Like that, all of that stuff. I just felt like I had the power to make it happen, or at least try. And if it didn't
Yeah.
work out, then at least I could say, you know what, just it wasn't meant to be. But I tried.
And
So
succeeded in so many ways. And
yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned how I don't think you use the word scary, but it's scary to have come out with this information. I'm that marriage is ending. We're moving in different directions to family and friends, and then not receiving as much support as you would have hoped for from your family. Um, and still not going back, still moving forward, still making those
Well,
choices.
yeah, because at the end of the day, like you're the one that has to live your life, right? So if I was gonna decide that I was gonna let other people dictate, that's what I was doing. I was
Mm,
letting other people sort of not tell me what to do, but I my decisions were coerced basically by the treatment that I received, right? So it was like I spent my entire life making decisions because I got positive feedback from that decision. So I'm not blaming everybody for my decisions for my whole life. I'm just saying that, you do make decisions in your life to sort of please people around you or that go along with the conditioning that you had as you were growing up. And so I spent a lot of time just trying to keep people happy. And so I think I made decisions my whole life, growing up and being like a teenager and then in my 20s and in my 30s as far as just where I was going to be, where I was going to live, what I was going to do that were people pleasing decisions. They weren't for me. And I didn't spend enough time kind of listening to myself. And so, yeah, I wasn't going to go back at that point. I sort of had a flash forward and saw my life in 20 years and was like, you don't want to wake up at 65 and be miserable and unhappy and say you should have done this 25 years ago. So, yep, I set out to do it and I'm like, you know what, we're not going back now. I don't want to look at my life and be miserable about it. I want to look at my life and be like, you know what, that was really hard, but you made it through it and you're better off for it. Um, I think being that jumping into a new relationship is always a little bit alarming for people also. And so that was probably tough for everyone to latch onto. But again, it's the life that I'm living. It's not their life. So you sort of just have to keep pushing forward and know that, you're confident in the decisions that you're making.
yeah, choosing your heart.
Yes.
You distinctly said something about the kids too, because I probably asked you, like, how are you feeling about the kids, and what you're gonna say to them, and how they're gonna take it, and you were so confident. That's probably the word. You were confident in their ability to process the information and be resilient and go with the flow and figure it out. And granted, all transitions can be hard, especially big ones like this. But I loved as a mom how you did two things. You one were standing up for yourself and choosing a life that felt good to you and felt better, and one that you wanted to fight for, even if it was hard, even if it was scary. And you were confident that your kids would be okay. And that those are probably two of the biggest reasons, that and people pleasing for other family members, why people are so afraid to get out of a marriage that they're not happy in. So often they think my kids aren't going to handle this well. Everyone's going to judge me. This is going to be too hard. This is going to be too scary. Those are like the reasons why. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just one
Oh,
example, but that's a lot of reason why people are like, "Oh, I could never. I'm just going to figure it out. I'll just be unhappy."
yeah. Well, and I think I am certain I said all of those things to myself and to others countless times as reasons why I couldn't do it, as reasons why I wasn't ready to admit it yet, as reasons why I wasn't ready to, push to take the next step forward. And so I did know deep down, though, even before I was finally willing to say it out loud, that my kids were going to be okay. They've always been resilient, and kids understand far more than we give them credit for. And I knew being a product of divorced parents that I was okay from their divorce. And the things that did stick with me as an adult had nothing to do with their divorce. It had more to do with just how my parents parented.
Hmm.
And so I knew that my kids were getting two parents who were not going to stop being the parents that they are. And so I knew they'd be just fine. It was going to be emotional, it was going to be tough, it was going to be hard to understand at first, but I was willing to give my kids the credit they deserved in what I knew they could handle and what they could understand. Of course, no parent wants to put that on their kid. Like no parent goes into being a mom and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to put this on my kid at some point in their life." Like that's not it's not the ideal scenario. But I did know that they'd be okay because I was okay and I know them and they're strong kids and they're smart and they're um, kind and they're, they know how they have a handle on their emotions. And so I knew that we were going to walk through it with them and we were going to make it. But yeah, it is really scary because you don't want to ruin your kids or put things on them that are going to traumatize them and make them miserable. And trust me, it's not always easy. They still, have questions and still sometimes are like, oh, this is a real big bummer. This sucks. But I just was like, you know what? You get to feel those feelings. You get to feel however you want to feel about it. Um, and I think that helps them to feel like they can take some ownership in their emotions and no one's telling them they can't be mad about it.
Yeah, that's brilliant because so often parents just go straight to the fixing and no, it's okay. You don't have to be sad and we're going to be okay. And yes, you're going to be okay and you get to feel whatever you're
What you need to
feeling.
feel. Yeah.
I love that. You've parented them like that, from the beginning. And, I take a lot of parenting advice from you. You probably don't even realize some of the things you say. I'm like, "Ooh, yeah, that's good. I like that."
I'm no
Parenting's hard.
expert. It is
Well,
really hard, and I don't know
none
what
of
I'm
us
doing
are
most of the time.
I mean, none of us are experts. We're all just trying to figure it out. It's like, what do they say? They like send you home with the baby and there's no manual. So just have fun. You're gonna wing it.
Yeah.
But that's life. And like you said, you don't get married and have kids with plans to, fuck their world up and change everything. You just face things as they come because that's life. And you can't see the future.
Right.
It's,
Well, and it's important to teach your kids that that's what life is like.
yes,
And so you
agreed.
show them the real because they're not going to grow up and be like, oh, we live in, rainbow and unicorn world. Like they're going to grow up
Hmm.
and they're going to face hard. They're going to be in relationships too. They're going to have tough bosses and they're going to have, you know, like intimate relationships at some point and they're going to have friendships and they're going to have family relationships that are going to be hard and present challenges. And so I think if anything, it does teach your kids like, oh, this is kind of not that you want to teach your kids to be jaded about the world yet, but that this is real.
It's real. Yeah, it's realistic.
Um, and I also, like the biggest thing I remember really hanging on to this hard is that I didn't want to show my kids an example of love that wasn't um I don't know what the word is, that wasn't sort of the best example that I could show them. I didn't want
Hmm.
either of them growing up thinking that their relationships needed to mean that they were unhappy or that they were unfulfilled or that they felt small or that they felt unseen or um, like something wasn't right. I wanted to give them the example that you get to make decisions and then change your mind. You get to feel unhappy and decide you want something different. You get to seek out something better for yourself when you know deep down that that's what's best for you. And so I didn't want to teach my daughter or my son that they just had to accept because they made a choice. You made your bed, now lie in it kind of crap. Like I never have
Hmm.
subscribed to any of that. I think it's bullshit. And so I wanted to teach them that they could go out and make different decisions for themselves, even if they committed to something. As long as you gave it your best and you really thought it through and decided this isn't for me, okay, what do you want to do?
Hmm. Yeah.
And I wanted them to feel like they could be in a relationship someday that felt, um, like full and felt good and felt aligned for them. And so I knew that they wouldn't necessarily understand this now, but at some point in their lives, they'll understand that this was a decision that I had to make. And even though it was really hard on me, it was really hard on their dad, it was really hard on them. Um, that it's important to honor yourself and to do what you feel is best for yourself. And of course, you don't want to hurt anybody in the process. And my kids were top level priority. But I knew that what we were going to go through was going to be okay. They were going to come out of it on the other side and be fine. So um, I think that's an important lesson.
I agree. I pulled two things from that. One, sharing that you wanted them to see that you were strong enough to make a hard decision and know that they were going to be okay, but to be able to recognize now or later or whenever that you made a good decision for yourself, even though it was hard, and you wanted them to be. I remember you saying something like, "I wanted them to be proud of my strength for doing something hard because it was the right thing for me to do,
Mhm.
rather than watch me endure something that wasn't meant for me anymore. So
Right.
that, like you just said, you can teach them, you can look out for yourself that way too. And you have a strong mom, and you have someone who's showing you how to look out for your best interest, that that's a good thing. And the other thing, um, I love what you said, that whatever you're healing from your past, this is me, everyone who's had something with their parents that wasn't quite right, which is most everybody, because everyone's got something, right? But I love that you said it wasn't the divorce that affected you. It wasn't the divorce itself that caused, something to, wounds to heal from. It was other things and other pieces of the relationships with your parents and whatnot. I think that's what a lot of people get held up on. They think it's the divorce that's going to,
Mhm.
quote unquote, ruin my kids.
Right.
Or but I think that's, I don't know if that's true for everybody. My parents' divorce was completely messy and disgusting, but like I don't think of that. That disgusting is the wrong word. It just took a long time and it was not fun.
It was
But
ugly. Yeah.
it was ugly, but it didn't affect me. The divorce itself didn't affect me as much as the shittiness leading up to it,
The
and what
behavior
they
of your parents. Yeah.
yes, and what they endured, and I never say that word right, but what they put each other through,
Hmm.
and entail
Yeah. What you
put
witnessed
us
from it.
through, and what we,
Yeah.
yeah, and what we witnessed, and what
Yeah.
we had to go through, because they were determined to, that's your bed, lie in it. And
Hmm.
for the kids, I hate the for the kids shit, because I
Yeah.
think you're proving the way
The
that's supposed to
opposite.
be,
Yeah.
right? Is for the kids, is to teach them how to look out for themselves and make hard decisions and be okay anyways,
Hmm.
not stay in an unhappy or unhealthy marriage,
Right.
because that's the determination, and that's the commitment you made,
Right.
that you can make other choices. So even though there's those are two things I pulled from that, it kind of is in the same vein.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, obviously there are situations where people end things too quickly. So I'm not advocating for that. But I think that if
Mm-hmm.
you give it a fair shot and you try to work through things and you just come to the conclusion that it's just not it, then it's okay to change your mind, and it's
Yep.
okay to teach people and kids that you get to change your mind. It's all right.
Yeah.
Doesn't make you a terrible person. Some of that's generational. Obviously, we're taught lots of
Yeah.
different things, generationally that maybe we're not things that can be upheld today. Um, so maybe the standard or the feelings about that now are a little bit different than they were 20 years ago or 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Um,
Fair.
but yeah, I think it is important to make sure that kids understand that they're going to be okay. Tough things happen in life, and you're still going to be all right.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted them to have a good example of marriage and not one that felt like settling or like having to short yourself. I really like you definitely can't find perfection. Nobody's perfect, but you shouldn't ever wake up feeling like you were kind of cheated or shorted or like you had to make yourself little for somebody else to be bigger. It's like there is give and take in any relationship, but everyone deserves to feel aligned and fulfilled. And I'm trying to think of other words to use to describe it, but to feel like
No.
you're getting
Yeah.
everything out of life that you deserve or that you set out to do, and to have support, like to have like the unbridled support of your partner is so big. Um, and if you're just not getting that for whatever reason, like that's a big deal, and everyone deserves that. So I think it took me a long time to get there, but after about 4 or 5 years, I finally can say, like on the other side, that it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life because it got me to a place of not taking anything less than what I deserve or anything less than what I feel like, I need to go out and get. Um, and hopefully taught my kids a good lesson in the process that you get to take hold of your life and make it whatever you want.
I want to recognize the both and. I love a good both and. How don't end it too soon. Give it what you can and really find out if this is the end of it. Um, and knowing you can also make a decision and change things. And even if it feels giant, you can still do that. Um, some people don't give it long enough. So I'm glad you kind of recognize both of those things. Don't be miserable and keep trying if it's not working, but do everything you can to make sure and then call it. Don't keep going past that point. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you pointed that out. And I kind of love that you're trying to find the word like what you're missing in a relationship and what you wanted to have that you weren't getting out of your marriage. And so I keep thinking of connection, and you have said that word. So
Mhm.
my question before I'm going to bother you about what life looks like right now, but what has connection between you and a man, like a romantic partner, like what is that? Has that definition changed for you? What does it look like and feel like now versus before? Like what have you learned about what connection needs to feel like? And you mentioned support too, which is also huge. Is that part of that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think feeling like you are giving support, but also getting it in return in the same way is important. And it's not to say that it's like, oh, I only give if I get. That's not what I mean. I just mean that it is important in a relationship to feel supported and to be able to support your partner in whatever it is, if it's their career or their hobbies or whatever thing they're set out to do. So yeah, I think support is a huge part of connection because if you're not getting that from your partner, you are going to feel disconnected. You are going to feel sort of like, oh, well, what the heck? Like, why can't I go do that? Or why don't you want me to? Or why, what is the problem here? And so I think that's kind of an immediate source of disconnection. Um, and I think that I had a lot of ideas about marriage and relationships built on very like juvenile concepts, like the Disney relationship kind of thing that we all grew up with if you're born in the 80s. um, and thinking that perfection was something that could be found. It's not. Um, but then also the flip side of that, which is sort of just thinking that marriage had to be mundane and had to be something that you just kind of survived. You just tolerate the person. And I think my example of it in my childhood wasn't very good. And so I just sort of learned how you tolerate somebody because you think you can't get any better. You think you're not good enough. You think this is as good as it gets. You're supposed to be bored. You're supposed to be unhappy. You're supposed to fight. You're supposed to, um, you know, have problems all the time. And even if that's not how your relationship is, which Donnie and I, we weren't like that all the time, but like, I just had this idea in my head that like, it's supposed to be this thing that you're sort of just meh about. And I can remember like, before I really figured out what was going on, laying in bed and being like, that can't be right. This can't be what it is. I understand you're going to have boring, mundane, there's going to be those times in relationships because you can't always have, the highest of the high all the time. But I knew that there was more to it than that. I knew that there had to be more excitement and fire and support and like unconditional love and deeper feeling to it. Um, and I think there are lots of different types of relationships. Don't get me wrong. I think there are really great marriages that are based on friendship and sort of just like companionship. I think there are really great relationships that are also very deeply emotional and passionate. And so I think it can be on the spectrum from any, you know, either side of that, in the middle, in between, whatever. Um, yeah, I don't think that any relationship should feel disconnected. And, um, relationships are work. I get that. Like, there is not a single, I don't care how good your relationship is, you do have to work at it. You do have to put in effort. You cannot get complacent. You can't just sort of be ho hum about it. It takes effort. But I think, yeah, feeling any sort of disconnect and not being able to reconnect that and figure out how to see your way back to each other, or feeling disconnected from yourself in a relationship. A lot of my issues stemmed from um, not liking the person that I was in it, and knowing that we were sort of mismatched in that like we didn't really bring out the best in each other, and not wanting my kids to see that either. So, yeah, I think that my perspective has changed on relationships as far as what I need. And that's all also super individualized and, can be tailored person to person. But I think that feeling seen and heard and supported was going to be a big thing for me. And knowing that I was going to be able to match my person on an emotional level was going to be huge for me. Knowing that I was going to be with somebody that could understand my complexities and their own complexities on a super high level. Because obviously everybody has their things, everybody's got their shit. But I needed somebody who was going to be able to understand themselves to such a high degree because I am very self-aware and understand myself on a very high level because I put the work in. So I needed that person to have done the same. Um, and knowing that that was possible or that that was out there, that someone could be willing to put in the same effort, I think was a different perspective that I was not sure I could, ever see myself getting because I didn't have that before.
And you found it.
I did almost to like a scary degree where I'm like, oh no, you know me way more than I thought I even knew myself, which is that's kind of scary sometimes.
This part matters. You know how many people hopefully are going to listen to this and think, God, I think one of the scariest parts about actually pulling the plug, all those lines, is that
Which
what
is
if I
nobody
don't,
out there. Hmm.
yeah, but like, what if I don't find it? What if the
Yeah.
thing I am running away from is all I'm going to get? That you talked a little bit about, the self-worth and not knowing yourself and being disconnected from yourself. And maybe you discount there could be something else out there. But if you don't try, you
Well,
might
yeah,
not know. And
yeah,
you're proof of that. You tried and you found someone who's deep and aware just like you are. That's a
yeah,
dream to some people.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it takes like effort to get to that point in yourself, and I did. I ended up meeting somebody that has been through way more than I have in life. Um, just as a child and even then through relationships as an adult and has gone to therapy and has done the work and has really gotten to know himself on a really really crazy high level. And so I think that I needed someone to match that with me in order to feel like I was getting what I needed, but also so that I could sort of focus on myself, not in like a weird selfish way, but like be able to focus in on how I could grow and do better, you know.
But there are selfish parts in a healthy relationship where you have support to be yourself, find yourself, do what matters to you. And if you have a partner who makes you feel bad about that or makes you look away from the things that matter to you or is too shy or afraid to help you, jump into those deeper places in your mind about, things that matter to you, if you don't have that kind of, I don't know, freedom to be yourself and to be who you're meant to be and to explore the things that matter to you. I don't know. I think that's part of connection too. And that's the support, right?
Hmm.
Is okay, I'm gonna go have a moment. You good? Or like, I need to go do this thing for myself. And it is selfish. It is the freedom that we give each other in a balanced relationship. Fine. If you need to go do that thing, I support you. I'm gonna go do this thing. You support me. Cool. That was the end of my parents. They did not, my mom supported him to the nth degree, and he never supported her. And he regrets it to this day. Like now that in hindsight, he can like see life, behind him. He even
Hmm.
apologized to her once in like more recent years, not that long ago, realizing that that was the death of their marriage. Is it wasn't just I don't support you, it's I don't let you be yourself and have freedom to do you. And I don't know, for me that matters in our relationship and my marriage. If I don't feel like I can do the things that make me feel like a whole person, we're supposed to do that for each other. That's
Well, yeah,
that's
because that's
healthy,
it's codependency, right? The opposite is codependency. And that was
right?
one of the biggest things that um, Corey and I talked about, which was not being codependent, not being so wrapped up in each other that like we lose ourselves and allowing for freedom and allowing for space and allowing for, like not controlling trying to control the other person and what they do. And that's huge in our relationship. It gets talked about all the time that you have to be your own person. Um, you can obviously come together in a way that that's connected, but you have to be able to have the freedom to go be who you are and not feel like you are um, making decisions because of or being controlled by the other person and feeling like you're you know a shell of yourself or you're not able to go do what you need to do. And so yeah, that is a really big aspect of our relationship that was important to us both, that we weren't going to be codependent. We were going to seek out
You
ourselves
talk.
first. Yeah.
Yeah,
And yeah,
you talk about it.
and communicate, which I think
Communicate.
is why that works. You have to communicate because a lot of
Have
times
to.
I think if you don't, then some of that can be completely misconstrued as you don't want to be around me. You're avoiding me, you're whatever the case may be. So communication is really big in that.
So then you can you say you feel like you're in a healthy relationship where you can thrive as a person and as a couple?
Yeah, for sure. It's based on a lot more maturity. It's based on a lot more self-awareness. It's based on a lot of experience and kind of, you know, a whole list of wrongs and rights that came together to, you know, make us understand who we are as people enough to be in a relationship with each other. And so, yeah, it feels like, even though there are difficult days or difficult concepts that we're dealing with, being that we have now bought a house together and we've merged our families. He has 2 kids. I have 2 kids. So there's 6 of us living in this house now. There's a lot that comes with that. And some days are tough, but we are able to talk about it and work through those things and understand ourselves enough to then be able to navigate that situation in the best way possible. Um, so there isn't screaming and yelling. There isn't giving the silent treatment. There isn't not talking about things. It is probably more communication than most would want to even be present for. Um, but yeah, it feels good to know that the person that you're with is in full support of you and even understands you and your personality and like doesn't think that you're too much or too big or any of that. They are um, fully aware and fully willing to hold your hand through whatever. And that's a big deal.
Well, and that's important right now because, like you said, you've merged your lives together. Can you speak a little bit to, I mean, as a transition coach, this is like a dream for me to like be alongside listening to how you handle this because there's people who are terrified of that part. How's it been to come together and, raise all four of your children under one roof? And like you
Well,
said,
so
communicating's big.
yeah, I mean, we've only been doing it for a month, so I can't really like,
It's
talk like I'm
fresh,
some sort of
yeah.
expert, but it is hard, but I think you have to be super aware that everyone's different. Everyone has a different personality, a way of doing things, likes, dislikes, just routines, all of it. And so I think it's giving space for everybody to sort of feel what they need to feel, have the routine they need to have, and not pressuring anyone to be different or do anything differently, while also teaching and communicating that like you have to be cognizant of others, you have to be aware and kind and concerned about others as much as you're concerned about yourself. um and you just got to kind of go with the flow a little bit too. Some days are crazy, but it's so far so good. Obviously we're early in, but everybody has their own space, so that's helpful. Everybody has their own room to retreat to when they need it. And nobody's forced to be or do anything they don't want to do. We're just sort of gonna cohabitate in a way that we all collectively take care of the house together. But we can also have our space and our downtime if we want to. And so that's helpful. But yeah, I think it's just having a lot of patience and a lot of understanding. And then there's growing pains. I mean, there have been hard days and there have been things that have happened that are like, oh, that's really annoying or that's really frustrating or I'm mad about that.
Yeah.
Um, but
Fair.
it's communicating and saying, hey, that wasn't okay. How do we fix that? Or that really hurt my feelings, or that really made me mad. Why did you do that? And I think too, like with him and I, it's being patient with knowing that they were all raised a little bit differently and they all had different lives prior to this merging of the households. Um, and so just staying sort of aware of that and also just having a game plan. Like we before we even did this, we had a whole discussion about, kind of must-haves or like the things that we aren't gonna, be able to compromise on, just even down to the dumbest things like the dishes and the laundry and that kind of thing. And just sort of having like being on the same page, being able to sit
Yeah.
down and be like, okay, this is what we want collectively as a team. And these are the things we're willing to compromise on. And then having a plan on how we get that. And so if that means delegating chores, if that means having conversations about how to decorate or where to put things or, what to get rid of or what to keep, how laundry gets done, dinner, all of that. It's just having a little bit of a game plan and just communicating and then just staying patient with suggestions and, with needs and wants. And it's working out pretty well. I think I've learned a lot about sort of letting go, um, and letting it be and not
Mm.
worrying so much about making sure everybody's happy and just sort of letting things play out. And I think Corey's probably learning a lot about the same, I think, in a way. He's a little bit better at letting people be whatever they want to be. If you're unhappy about it, then oh well, I guess you're unhappy about it. If you're happy about it, great. But I think just kind of learning that things don't have to go according to some sort of set rules. We can sort of compromise and figure out how to do things a little bit differently. Um, so there is growth in it for sure.
That's fair. Well, and I'm glad you talked about the human aspects of people are going to get pissed off and we're going to have hard days and it's not going to be easy all the time because you are merging different lives into one space. And I know Corey's done um, a lot on his own with his boys. And what's it been like for him to allow you to be a part of decisions?
We both come
Yeah.
from a place of being grateful to have, someone who's willing to do as much as the other.
Yeah, that's the change for
Um,
both of you. Same for
mhm,
both of you. Is
yeah,
you were both the main people doing all the things and now
right,
you are together being doers.
right.
I call you guys doers. You're
Yeah, so stuff
I'll
gets
do
done
it.
for sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a little bit of discrepancy on how.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's normal.
But yeah, no, I think he's handling it super well, and like I said, he's a little more easygoing on like, I don't really care how this happens, let's just get it done kind of
Yeah.
deal. Whereas I'm
Yeah.
sort of like, no, it has to happen this way.
That's
Um,
helpful for you.
yeah.
You can be kind of rigid. This is a nice lesson for you, Miss Page.
Oh, I know.
Kind of
I needed to grow in that area for sure.
that's
I was
good.
just used to being in control, and now that
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
like fully in control all the time, I've got to sort of relinquish to somebody else sometimes. Just it's nice though. I will tell you, like
Yeah.
it's nice to sort of be like, oh, I don't have to worry about that thing. Great.
Okay, so one of the things I always tell people who I work with, starting with a new client, one of the biggest things I always tell people is you're going through transition, you're going through something new, hard, difficult, whatever it is, you name it. One of the best things you can do is tend to your self-care and take care of you. Has that been part of this transition for you? And is it helping?
Yeah, I mean, I think I spent a good chunk of time before, like, kind of in between, like deciding that the divorce needed to happen and then sort of the steps for that to move forward and then meeting and becoming part of a new relationship where I was like pretty focused on, you need to take better care of yourself because again, you can't be anything for your kids if you don't have your own ducks in a row and your own stuff figured out. And so that was part of that. Um, Down to just creating better routines for myself, working out, washing my face at night, just having myself set up for the day so that I had a lunch packed for the day and I was going to feed myself the right food and I was going to make sure that I got to the gym and I was going to make sure that, I took care of myself in ways that were going to make me feel healthy and good, so that I could be more for everybody else when I needed to. And so that was a big deal. I went back to the gym, um, and was trying to do that every day. And obviously that's hard, but I've stuck with that even, through the move and everything else. And I go every single day at 5 o'clock in the morning. And that's a huge part of my daily routine now, which is funny because I hated those people before. Now I'm one of them.
I love that part.
I wash my face every night, and you know that that's how our relationship started. I talked about that in the last episode, but
It's true.
I hated that whole idea of like, who are these people that get out of bed to go wash their face? I hate those people. Like, why? I'm too tired. I don't want to. Um, but I do, and it's dumb, but that's the reality of it. I don't want to get out of bed to wash my face, but now I do every night. Um, but those are the things that you sort of neglect when you're a mom too, you know? Or when you're going through something hard, even if it has something to do with kids, just going through something hard, sometimes it's hard to push yourself to do anything more. So when you're
Mm,
going through something super emotional, it's like, oh, forget it. Who cares?
yeah,
Who cares?
it's a lot.
I think reminding myself that like I'm important too. Like, yes, you can pour yourself entirely into your kids and your job and everybody else. But if you don't take care of yourself, you can't be anything for anybody else. And
Hmm.
so I think coming back to myself and realizing that I needed to do a better job taking care of me was a big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and now you wash your face like a big girl.
I do.
I
Despite
hate,
my mumbles and grumbles when I'm laying in bed and it's 9:30 and I'm like, oh no, I
I
didn't
know,
do
but
it.
it pays off, and treating yourself with some love and respect is important,
Yes.
and it helps you, like you said, show up for other people. Speaking of other people, there could be people or someone listening to this right now who is feeling nervous or encouraged or both. What kind of advice would you give someone who's contemplating making a change like you did?
I mean, I think that at the end of the day, you're gonna do it when you're ready to do it. No one's gonna push you into it. It's a decision that you have to make all on your own. I can remember saying like, well, should I? What should I do? When? How should I do it? Nobody can do that for you. You have to come to that conclusion all by yourself and you have to figure it out. Obviously, talking to a therapist or talking to your friends or your family is helpful, but at the end of the day, you have to make all those decisions for yourself. But I think I would say, don't be afraid of the unknown, even though it's scary to not have it all figured out. Things do sort of shake out the way they need to. Um, and and it is about, like you said before, choosing your heart and figuring out what things are important to you. And knowing that no one's going to come hand them to you in life, so you got to go out there and get it. So it's I don't know if that's anything super profound or well said,
It's real. It's real.
but just sort of not being so stuck on the uncertainty of it all and letting things just be. You actually said this to me, I don't know, maybe like a week ago. I was probably complaining about my life or something that I was like mildly frustrated with and trying to figure out and needing the answer right now. And you were like, can't you just sit still and let it be? You said something to that effect of like, um, just be content with where you are. And that was such a good reminder of like, in this kind of a process, if you're somebody that's going through that, it's sort of being content with where you are enough to say it's okay to not have it all figured out. It's okay to not need to take the next step right this second or like know what's going to happen with it right this second. Um, but being confident in saying, does this feel right? Do you need to do something differently? And so I think just not being so stressed out about the uncertainty of something, kind of calming yourself down, being still, sitting in the moment, and then saying, okay, what is the next thing that feels right? And if that means moving forward with making a big decision that you think is gonna be life changing, then great. And if it means sitting back and letting some things play out, then that's what you got to do too. Um, Trusting your own judgment and having the confidence to say you know what's right for you.
And then trust that whatever's next and whatever you need to do, you'll know. You'll figure it out as you go. And that is trusting the
Yeah.
uncertainty.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
weren't saying be content and do nothing. You were
Right.
saying be content right this second
Hmm.
and then take a breath and ask yourself a few questions and then move forward. And I
Yeah.
think that's, yeah, it was a good reminder.
Well, and you've been on a fast track to changing your life. And granted, it's over a long period of time, especially from the moments you first started realizing your marriage might be over. Like, this is a very long time
Mm-hmm.
of things happening. But when you finally made the decision to now, that was also kind of what I was referring to. It's like everything was kind of boom, boom, boom happening. And
Yeah.
now, oh, wait, hold on. Like, look what you did. Look where you are. Look how
Right.
happy you are. Look, yes, there are growing pains, whatever, but like, I wanted you to see the magic you made for your life and the decision that you made, the multiple decisions that you've made that have led you to where you are now. You have a much different life,
Mm-hmm.
and you did that. And that was part of my push. It's like, can you see? Just like, look what you've done.
It is hard to take credit for things sometimes. You
Yeah.
forget that like how much work you put into getting there and knowing that you did it all by yourself. You didn't, nobody else did it for you.
Yeah.
But it's hard to give ourselves that credit sometimes.
Yeah. You deserve that. Everybody needs a moment to be like, oh, I guess I could pat myself a little bit on the back,
A
at least a little bit.
little bit. I will. I will pat myself on the back.
And I'm proud of you, friend, and I'm
No,
happy
thank
for
you.
you and
I for
glad that.
sure would not have made it without you. There's millions of conversations and phone calls and texts and panic and oh my God, help me and but I'm not going to make it and SOS, I need you to call me right now. Situations that got us to here. So
Well, I appreciate you
you
saying that.
deserve a pat on the back for that. Because
Oh,
you
thank you.
you are still and you're still going through it with me.
Well, I love
Honey,
you. You're one of my people.
no, I love you too.
And that's a good point, like it's okay to have a person, a support, however many persons,
You
people
have
you
to.
need to go through. Yeah, you have to. It's scary to do anything completely by yourself. And yes, no one's going to come rescue you and save you and make decisions for you, but you don't have to be alone. So I am glad you mentioned that. Thank you. You're welcome. And I'm always here. I'm always
Friends
here for you.
are important. That is for sure.
Friends.
You got to have a good community of people to get through anything.
And you're stronger for it. Not that you needed more strength. Holy hell. All right, final. All done after this question because I asked you this last time and I ask everybody this question. But with this journey in particular, the Paige sitting on your big, beautiful king bed now versus the Paige who made that decision. I don't know if you remember the moment when you were deciding we need to get divorced. I need to make a change. If you could go sit next to her, what would you say to her?
Oh, jeez. Um, I'd probably yell at her and be like, "Hey, knock it off. It's good. Stop freaking out." No, I think I would say, you don't have to have it all figured out one step at a time. It's
Good.
not all going to come together tomorrow, but you can do this. You're strong enough, and everybody's going to be just fine. And it's all gonna come together. Just focus on one task at a time. Um, and I think also too, there's just a lot to be said about the shame that you feel when you make a decision like that. And it's so not worth it. So not worth it to put yourself through that because everybody goes through different things and everybody's life is different. And there's no need to feel ashamed about any of it. So maybe just, a little less being so tough on yourself, a little more being proud of yourself for being brave enough to make a decision like that, being brave enough to face something like that. I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, it does. Oh, that's good. That's good to hear you say to yourself. Well, friend, before I start bugging you more about things, honestly, I could see us doing this again. I'm just saying. Just saying. You never know. Your story and your multiple decisions to change your life. I mean, it's inspiring and it's helpful. I mean, you don't know whose life you might impact with this. So
Yeah, well,
thank
I
you.
hope it can be for someone.
I don't see why not. So thank you. Go wash your face.
Yes. All right
Because
now.
I know you will.
Do it early.
Yeah. Tell everybody hi
I shall.
and I'll talk to you later.
All right, sounds good.
I'm so grateful to Paige for coming on and doing a bit of a tell all. That's personal stuff. And thank you, Paige, for being a part of the show again and for sharing the changes and the hard decisions and good decisions that you've made in your life. If you listening are going around and around in your mind about whether or not the relationship you're in is right for you, it's okay to have those questions. Don't judge yourself for it. And if you need a friend or a coach, it's okay. It's okay to need support, especially when you're making really big changes. Paige said even though she made all these decisions on her own, she didn't do that. She didn't make those decisions alone. And support is really important. So if you're going through something or you know someone who's going through something like this, know that you're not alone and that you deserve and may need some support and some love. And we need to tend to things that matter to us because you're important. We're important. We're here for a reason and we deserve to live our best life. Your needs matter because you matter. Thanks for being here. Share this episode and I'll see you next week. Take care. Thank you for listening to the Needy and Normal podcast. The show is brought to you by ABL Life Coaching. Visit ablifecoaching.com or follow ABL Life Coaching on Instagram. Before you go, please rate the show, leave a review, subscribe, and share your favorite episode with someone you like. Don't forget to follow Needy and Normal Pod on Instagram. And if you're curious about coaching, reach out for your free consultation.